Sri Vaheguru Sahib Jiyo. He kal mool krodang kadanch karuna na uparjate Bhikhyant jivang vasyang krot Nirtyang krot jatha markatah ਅਨੇਕ ਸਾਸਨ ਤਾੜੰਤ ਜਮਦੂਤੈ ਤਵ ਸੰਗੇ ਅਦਮੰ ਨਰਹਿ ਦੀਨ ਦੁਖ ਭੰਜਨ ਦਿਆਲ ਪ੍ਰਭ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਰਬ ਜੀ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਕਰੋਤ ਦੀਨ ਦੁਖ ਭੰਜਨ ਦਿਆਲ ਪ੍ਰਭ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਰਬ ਜੀ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਕਰੋਤ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ, you've all just listened to the Bani of Guru Arjun Dev Ji Paat Ji. That was the 47th slok of Salok Sehaskriti Bani. Guru Arjun Dev Ji in this slok will be addressing us about anger, about krodh, one of the panj chor, one of the 5 thieves that come and loot us, that actually loot us from what? From our actual life. Because often we claim that we are living freely, that we're living in a society, we're living amongst, now we're living in that age, we may be living in that country where we feel that we are free. But the truth is, any of us that have lost control, and one of these 5, and today out of those 5 we're talking about krodh. If anger, for example, has gotten control over our mind instead of us controlling anger, then the truth is it's actually taking away our life, because we're not actually getting to live life the way we would like to live it. Because the simple question is, Sangat Ji, whenever you experience that intense, strong emotion of anger, if you was asked the question that is that an emotion that you actually enjoy? And the obvious answer will be, I'm sure for most people, 99.9% people will say absolutely not. And if we said that, would you rather be experiencing something a lot more pleasurable? Because we all know that anger is not that. Anger isn't something we enjoy. Anger isn't something that we actually receive and get ras from. We don't feel in that moment any juice flowing inside. So we will say that no, of course we would rather. And obviously if the Sangat, if I was sat amongst the Sangat here now, I would actually ask the Sangat and I'd get them to put their hands up. So you can now reflect on this at home, speak to your family. Would you rather choose an emotion where you are enjoying that emotion, where you're getting pleasure from it, you're feeling happy? Or would you choose that emotion of anger? Think about how you feel during that time. Think about what actions come from that. Think about what type of words get spoken during the influence of anger. And I know I would much rather choose that pleasant emotion. Why? Because that's something that I'm getting pleasure from, and it's something that I would choose myself. So if I was living consciously, if I was in control, then Sangat Ji, Paatshah Ji's Bani says to us that what we've ended up doing is, it's like handing over a kingdom to a little child and saying to this child, saying, look, you look after this kingdom, you look after the whole people of this kingdom. And what's happened is we've lost control over our mind. And it's like handing over the keys to this little child inside and saying that you take care of this whole, your kingdom, you take care of this body, the kingdom being the body. This is Shabad in Gurbani that I'm not going to go into because obviously I want to focus on the words of Guru Arjun Dev Ji here, but just give an example to understand this. And then imagine saying to that child, now you're going to look after the people within this nagar, within this body, and those people are who? You're going to take care of these senses. You are going to take care of all the emotions. This kid's going wild. It doesn't know what to do. It sometimes just hands the power to that. He'll say to the eyes, no problem, go and do this. He'll say to the ego, yes, look, just, it's okay. Just inflate yourself more and more. This is great. You know, wear more coats, wear more layers. Secondly, and the more layers of the ego that we wear, that what we identify ourselves with, the more chance is there of us actually experiencing anger. So anger is an emotion that we would not choose. Anger is an emotion that is showing us, it's a sign of us losing, and we have lost control. This is one place I would say that Gurbani will differ to the way potentially a psychologist might explain this. Somebody that has studied about the patterns of the brain, of the mind, through what other people have discovered, but not through the guru. And it doesn't matter who that psychiatrist, who that psychologist might be, but if they're under the influence only on the Western studies that they have carried out, and they're not taking the Sharan of Satguru Ji, of Guru Granth Sahib Ji Pacha Ji, you will hear things like in therapy said that anger is something very normal. Anger is a normal emotion to experience in small dosages, but they will say as well. This isn't putting anyone down, Sangat Ji. This is actually understanding the Guru's wisdom. And sometimes if somebody was to actually even just do a Google search and go on the internet and go on YouTube, but what you might, when you come to learn about this subject, the things that you might actually hear. But the root of what those that are professionals that have studied the mind, what they are trying to say is, for me, it's more of an issue of language and the use of terminology of how we're terming something, because their whole focus is that there is no guilt attached to a particular emotion, because guilt will actually destroy us further, will bring the mind down even more. So it's not about feeling guilt for an emotion, but it's about being conscious about an emotion, understanding what an emotion is. So Sangat Ji, does Satguru Ji, Guru Granth Sahib Ji Pacha Ji, do they normalize an emotion like anger? Absolutely not. Nowhere in Guru Granth Sahib Ji Pacha Ji will Sache Pacha Ji normalize and say that in this amount of dosage that this emotion is okay. Because otherwise, like I said yesterday in the 23rd part of where we spoke about lust, Kaam, that Satguru Ji Sache Pacha Ji's Bani calls this a thief, calls this somebody that loots our Amrit, that loots our nectar filled qualities from inside. So absolutely not can we say any dosage of that is normal. But if we do ever get angry, as we all do, unless somebody has really reached that higher state of mind of living in constantly living in full awareness and have become conscious about every action, and they don't allow their subconscious mind to overpower them in any form of way, but they actually make use of it as and when they need. So Sangat Ji, that Satguru Ji Path says that Amrit loote, manamukh nahi bujhe. So it actually takes away, Sangat Ji, our compassion from inside. Because ਇਹ ਦੋ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਇਕੱਠੀਆਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਹਿ ਸਕਦੀਆਂ. They cannot sit together. The Amrit and poison. ਇੱਕ ਪਾਸੇ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਹੋਵੇ, ਇੱਕ ਪਾਸੇ ਬਿਖ ਹੋਵੇ. Amrit is sweet. And then that poison is bitter. Sangat Ji, anger is bitter. Amrit is sweet. Amrit is compassion. Where there is anger, there is no compassion, because if there was compassion there, then that anger would not come forward. So Satguru Ji Path Ji here is saying to us in Gurbani, kende Amrit loote, that's the actual job of it. Manmukh nahi bujhe, but somebody that is following their mind. So imagine that child now is in control, and the child gives permission to this emotion inside of you to take over and say that's fine. And what is it inside of us that tells us, that makes us justify it within our mind? In our mind, it's our ego that allows anger to come forward. So then what happens? Manmukh nahi bujhe. This is the manmukhs don't understand this. Those that are following their mind and not the Guru's wisdom and are not living consciously, they will actually just go with that. So Sangat Ji, it's like going with a wave. Instead of saying, you know what, no, I'm going to remain deep inside of myself untouched. Just like Sache Path Ji say, they say that when the wind comes, and then that as that wind comes, this says that wind blows my boat over and I topple over. So Satguru Ji Sache Path Ji, we obviously don't want our Amrit, we don't want our qualities looted from us, because many studies have shown, because the more calm we remain, the more compassion and love we have inside of us, the better our whole system, actually our physical body functions. We know that when somebody is under an immense amount of stress, if somebody is angry, you know that your stomach will start to churn as well at times. And it's not possible then for our even metabolism, for our stomach to digest food properly. So what happens? You get a lot of acid. And there's many studies that have shown this huge correlation between acidity of the stomach that is there to digest our food, but we create a lot more of it than we need, and it actually comes up and it burns us. When that happens during anger as well, because then it's not actually focusing on the job it needs to do of digesting that food. So Sangat Ji, our metabolism can actually slow down. So let's listen to what Guru Arjun Dev Ji Path Ji is saying to us today. They say that, so that what I've just covered there, compassion, where there's compassion, anger will not have any space to sit there. And then Path Ji is saying here, what is the root cause of conflict when we get into an argument with somebody, when we use that term and say it got a little heated? When does a conversation with somebody get heated? Who is the cause of that? Guru Arjan Dev Ji Path Ji will say to us, kende he kal mool krodang. Kende he kal, kende he kal mool krodang. Guru Arjan Dev Ji Path Ji, just like yesterday in the slok, they spoke directly to lust. Today they are speaking directly to krodh, to anger. So they're saying hey, then skip the two words krodang. They're speaking to krodh here. They're saying you krodh kal mool. You are the mool. Mool means root. Mool can also mean essence in a different context. Mool can also mean at all. So it's got three meanings, but here mool means root. Kal Sangaji means kalesh, meaning conflict. When we get into arguments with somebody, when something gets heated with somebody. And Paatji saying here, so it's fine to actually, we might disagree with someone on something. And then there's those people that either will come to some sort of conclusion and they will discuss things, but then there's those people as well that instead of discussing it, they might say, you know what, I accept. Remember yesterday as well, we covered constantly that the opposite of that, maaf karna, when we spoke, Sangat Ji, when we spoke about attachment, that's it, about more. When we spoke about attachment 2 days ago, that the opposite to attachment is living in acceptance. But over here as well, Paatji is saying that when we're able to accept something in a conversation with someone, a healthy debate, and we say, let's accept, that we agree to disagree, that this is your point, and you know what, I actually understand where you're looking at it from, but it's not how I'm seeing it. So this is my perspective, and I respect you, and I accept, I don't take on what you're saying, but I accept the situation for what it is, and I accept that we will have to agree to disagree. Some people might settle it in that way, and that's actually a really healthy way to settle it, because they haven't now suppressed their emotions, which can be very dangerous. There's one thing of being able to let go and forgive, but that is a perfect scenario. But a dangerous thing to do is to actually sit on something and suppress it inside of ourselves. That will then manifest in many different ways. One of those ways will be where our body will take a huge hit on that. Paanch kende he kal mool krodang, kende krod, you are the mool, you are the root, the root cause of conflict between two people. When that goes out of control, when it becomes this conflict and it becomes heated, it's because of krodh. And Paanch kende kadanch, kadanch means nowhere near, not at all. Kende kadanch karuna, karuna Sangaji means, comes from the word daya, from maya, maya means daya as well, daya means compassion. Kade kadanch, not at all karuna. Now upajate, upajate means something that rises, something that is born inside of us. They're saying that karuna, they say that daya is nowhere inside of us, because jithe daya hove uthe krodh nahi aunda. So Sangaji, just to understand that a little bit, that when we actually go through that process with our mind, just to give somebody that time within our mind for us to give that opportunity to look at something from their perspective and their shoes. Sangaji, a lot of Buddhists actually carry out this, they call it a form of meditation for them, and I've spoke about this in kathas before as well. And this, there's a particular meditation that they do, so it helps them to bring compassion inside of them. As Sangaji, sach ea that sometimes we need a particular process to get to somewhere, and that process is something that I've actually tried myself in my own life, and it actually works. So I know when somebody says, is that a good tool? You know it's a good tool when you've used it in your job and you know what results it actually brings for you. So this tool, you call it a meditation, whatever you want to call it, it's very simple. I remember there was a situation that I went through in my life that involved very, very close family members. And it was a very delicate situation. And in that situation, in the beginning, I was actually, without realizing, I was looking down at someone, because I thought that they are wrong and I am right. And because I thought that what I'm trying to do here is a righteous act, and what they're saying is they're stuck in falsehood. And this situation was about somebody embracing a spiritual path, and there was somebody in their life that wasn't agreeing to it for whatever reason. But in the beginning, because I was looking at the situation from a very shallow perspective, and I was thinking that, oh, look how they are stuck in Maya, look how they are stuck in this illusion, and how they're not letting this person that they apparently that they love so much, but they don't want this person to progress. And then Sangatji, but look how our mind will play tricks on us. Remember, once that one chor enters this mind, and all these thieves will come from that ego mind. The ego mind, when I was saying the ego is the I am is, look, I am right. I am so religious. I am religious. Even though our Atma is beyond any shackles of religion. That's why Guru Gobind Singh Ji Paatshah, I often quote this. Because I quote this very often. Why? Because these are things that we don't actually focus on when we do our Nitnem. Sangatji, many of times I'll actually hear Nitnem being done in such a way, it's like just, I'm sorry to use these terms, but it's I would say it's quite an accurate description of when somebody's just ripping through something, when somebody just needs to get it done. But Paatshah is awakening us each moment. Every word of Gurbani is removing our ego for us if we're consciously taking it in. Guru Gobind Singh Ji Paatshah namastang amazbe. Mazhab Sangatji means religion. And then that Paatshah is saying that Vaheguru Ji is beyond any mazhab, beyond a religion. And what happens is we make this into one of our layers of ego, and we look down at others because we say that we don't realize this. But as adults, we, in our mind, it might not sound like that. We might word it slightly differently, but I can tell you exactly what it is, what's going on inside of the mind. Inside of the mind, we're like these little kids saying, oh, my religion is better than yours. Look, we've got the best way. You haven't got what we've got. Asi sab to uchche hain. Sangatji, and that is a layer of ego, and from ego there's pride. So I had that layer, and the reason I use my own example is because constantly, again and again, I get messages from Sangat saying we were able to relate to this Katha because of this example. And Sangatji, yesterday I received a message on Instagram saying that, Virji, where's the Hukamnama Katha for today? It's become a part of my daily routine. And he says, I listened to it just before I start work, and I felt really bad because I wasn't able to do the Katha yesterday morning. And he said that even though I read the Hukamnama before, it would still leave me, and I'd read the English translation, he said, because it's a literal translation. He said, but it still left me thinking, so what does that mean? So the importance of this Katha, and one thing he said they relate to is examples, everyday examples. So when I thought I'm doing a great job helping this person on their spiritual journey, what do they know? So that was my, I am religious, I am right, that's my ego. And then I'm looking down at them thinking, look at them all stuck in Maya. And then you almost you might not outright, but you're almost like sniggering from inside. And innu ta kende hankar, innu ta kende arrogance. This is what they call arrogance, Sangatji. And then pyareo, and then what happens eventually to that? When they continue to be persistent, if that situation continues to be persistent, we're not living in awareness, what will happen is it'll take us on another ride, take us to the next stage. It takes to the stage of then frustration. From frustration, thinking, oh, this is just getting ridiculous now, and we start using this type of language. This is just getting silly now. Look, they're not stopping. Look how stubborn they are. Constant judging. But we don't realize we're losing control and we're actually getting frustrated now. And then from frustration, we've created this huge channel now. We've created this path now where we've opened ourselves up for anger. And then we blow up and then we get angry. We're saying this is getting ridiculous now. You know what? And then that's it, we go off on one. And Sangat ji, once we go off on one, Sache Paatshah ji, they tell us that what happens then. They say that Bikhyant Jeevang, this Jeev becomes full of Bikya, becomes full of Bik. Vishay means doing lowly acts, then saying all sorts of things from this tongue. And what Guru Arjun Dev Ji saying, that people that are starting to slightly lose it here, what happens? Those people that are there doing Bik are speaking bitterly and looking down at someone. When somebody's in that Bikhyant, that Jeev, that person, what happened? Guru Arjan Dev Ji Paatshah ji kehn lage, vasyang karot. Why happened? Krodh means karda kiya. What does krodh now? What does it do? Krodh means what does it do? What does now anger do? Vasyang, now it thinks that's it. I've got a gap. It looks for the weak. So it looks for, oh, that's it, I've got you, bang. That's it, and you'll explode. You'll say then, anger is out of control. You'll say things that you regret. You'll say things that you would never say on a normal daily when you're not taken over by anger. So remember, even though we're talking about anger to be like this, to be like an entity, a separate entity, a form, but it's not, Sangaji. The truth is, anger is, we just get angry, we become angry. So now it's important for us, which sometimes helps people, and that is enough to actually just help somebody, to make them aware what is actually happening physically inside of us. Remember, sometimes people start to freak out a little bit. I said this yesterday. Oh, why are you going all scientific on us? So how silly is that comment if we start talking about different parts of our brain, and it's not going all scientific on someone. It's actually just talking about Vaheguru Ji's creation. Vaheguru Ji ne banaya, Vaheguru Ji's made this brain. Vaheguru Ji's put all the different parts and sections of the brain inside, that the doer is within it. The doer is the actual cause of how everything works, this whole system. So actually, what we're talking about Vaheguru Ji. We're talking about the Karta here, the creator here. So what actually happens? Just like we explained why lust exists, why does then anger even exist? Where does it come from? What energy does it come from? So this is how it works. So before anger even manifests, this is to understand why. Why is that energy even there for it to become so, take on such an ugly form? Because it's needed. The energy where it comes from is needed. It's a very similar process to what our body goes through when we're experiencing anxiety, which I've explained in another video. So Sangaji, what happens? So there's times when, so imagine now, because Guru Sahib Ji's used the word conflict here, so they've actually said to us kal kalesh, so conflict. So when, imagine now, let me put you into a scenario. You're in a conversation with someone. That could be a father with their child, a mother with their child, husband and wife, parents, friend, whoever it may be. Okay, whoever you can relate this to. And in that during that conversation, you're going back and forth, you're having a chat, and it starts to get a little bit messy. And you say to your child, so I'll put, like, for example, Sangaji, so I'll say to that child, and don't worry, I'm going to finish my example off in a minute, what I was talking about. That the situation I told you I was in, and how I used this meditation called compassion. So I'm going to link it all up, Sangaji, so don't think I've forgotten about that. But, so what's happening? You know, in that conversation, we start losing it a bit. And we say things like, okay, you're annoying me now. Even though, when we say these words, you are annoying me, do you know what we're actually saying? We are saying, I am losing control. It's nothing to do with you. That if I'm saying I'm losing control, I'm losing it a bit now because of you, I'm just saying, actually, this is how weak I am, and here it is. I've given you the key to my emotions. Sangaji, we should have the key to our own emotions. We shouldn't be handing it in someone else's hand. See, when we put it like that, then it starts sounding quite silly, doesn't it? To say that I'm losing it a bit now because of you. So now we can say, actually, that makes no sense. Why should I lose it because of someone else? Why should I give somebody else the privilege to bring havoc into my emotions and for me to lose control? No, actually, that makes no sense. So that's one thing sorted as well. But then when we say that, look, you know, if you carry on now, I'm going to lose it completely. And when we say I'm going to lose it completely, what we mean is I'm going to let this anger manifest, and you watch what I'm going to do now. Meaning I'm going to start shouting, potentially. I might even raise my hand. I'm not saying to anyone to raise their hand. I'm just bringing the reality to you of what somebody might be thinking behind this when they're saying these words, and what people actually do end up doing. So what they're saying is, before this manifests, and they're saying that I might throw a chair, I might break a door, I might punch a door, I might do this, I might do that, I might say something I regret. But what they don't know is they've already actually entered the realm of anger. Because before you know it in that way, where it's actually come out, for you to even get to that bit to say, you know what, if we carry on, I'm going to get angry. No, it means you've already lost control. And you already are angry because there's something that knows before there's any reactions in your body. You know, when you're angry and your stomach starts churning, your heart starts beating faster, but before that. So there's a gland in our brain called the amygdala. And that receives first it's like the message, you could say. So ਉਹਨੂੰ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਚਿੱਠੀ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੁਣ ਪੰਗਾ ਪੈ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ. So the amygdala gets ready to now send. So that part lights up in your brain. It's on alert now. It's going to send a message now to your adrenal glands, which are, there's two, and they're placed just above our kidneys. But why does that light up? Because when we're in that situation, because of the past and the memory that we hold within us through genes, through our ancestors, through our karma, through our past lives of needing to survive in certain situations, of when we were surviving in most horrendous conditions, of when we, Sangat Ji, were living in jungles, surviving out in the wild, and a wild animal came towards us. That's when it was produced. Then it would light up inside this, the amygdala would, and it would then send a message directly to our adrenal glands. And what they do is, then they release stress chemicals, which is cortisol and adrenaline. And we're all very And we all know, we've all heard these words, adrenaline. But when these two things kick in, it kicks in, so there's a lot more now blood flowing in our muscles. Now it takes all the attention away. So now all that stress is concentrated in our muscles. Why in our muscles? Because it's getting ready to fight. It's getting ready to fight or flight, do one, or to take this danger on. But Sangatji, we are getting angry over little things like, oh, how many times did I say to you to pass me that remote? And what we've done is, because we've not been paying attention, and we've let it happen so many times that it just kick into gear, that auto response. It was made for a dangerous event. So is it needed today? Absolutely. Why is it needed today? It's not needed as what it's become today, as using and practicing anger multiple times throughout the day. We're not even in danger. Those are just really random little situations. We use it, and I'll come to that in a minute. So what type of situations of danger could we have today? Sanji, for example, you're upstairs, you're in your bedroom, and you hear a noise downstairs. How many times does this happen to you? How many times has this happened? You hear a noise downstairs, a little panda moves or something, and it drops. It sounds like you heard, some footsteps or whatever it is. And that's it. You're like, full alert. And your hearing goes even sharper. Because where you sensed the danger from, that will become more alert and sharp. So towards the direction of danger. So then what happens is, your wife will say to you, did you hear that? And you're thinking, oh my God, is she going to send me down? So normally you'll react and say, nah, what? Did you hear something? I didn't hear anything. And then she'll say, no, seriously, didn't you hear that? And then from inside, you're a little bit scared. And you're thinking, I hope I didn't hear anything. Maybe I didn't. Maybe it was just the wind. Let's hope it was nothing. And then you hear something again. She's like, you heard that this time? And like, yeah. And then you're just hoping she doesn't ask you to go down. She's like, all right, you're going to go down then. And so much, those husbands out there, you just want to say, you can't say it, but inside you're thinking, my dad died. And you're thinking, I'm scared. Will you go down? But you can't. You have to put, you have to macho it out then, innit? And then you say, oh, main jana hai aur. Yeah, main janna. And Sangatji, so for example, now getting past my little humour, you come downstairs now and you're actually faced with a burglar. You see a burglar. They've got something in their hand, a weapon in the hand. At that point, it's the same as when we were surviving in jungles and a huge bear would come towards us. We would need everything we would need all that extra blood circulating in our muscles to be able to take something on, to be able to run fast, whatever it is. And for that moment, our eyeballs are popping out so we can clearly see our target. And then we see that burglar. So we need that energy to kick in, which Satguru Ji Pacha Ji talks about, and they call it as Veer Rasa. And Pacha kende jabe baan lagyo tabe Ros Jagyo. Spoke about this in one of the kathas earlier this week, or maybe last week. Ros Jagyo, last week it was. Ros Jagyo. This rage inside, it's natural, it's needed, it's a survival instinct that's put inside of us to be able to react, to be proactive in a moment of danger when it's needed. And then Sangatji, we're able to deal with that situation as we need. So the targets, their focus go full on. But Sangatji, what happens is today, because it was something that was happening subconsciously and it was there. So now what's happening is, because we've not done enough meditation bhakti, we've not meditated enough to become separate, to become a witness to what's going on inside of this brain of ours and how things are working. So like they'll say, like, parents will say, "Tu bevkuf hai." They'll say you're an idiot. Tu muh chokke ab kise nali tor panna hai. I used to get this said a lot to me. They'll say that you don't even look at who it is. You just lift your face up and that's it. You're gone. You're on one. You just go off with anyone. And we're like that. This response kicks in, but this response kicks in when there's no danger. And it kicks in because it's built into our system to protect us. But then, as this happens, it kicks in over little trivial things when there's no danger. Like I was giving that example. We asked for the remote of one of our other family members. These are family members. We apparently love these. These are the ones that will give our life for. We'll say, "Remote de." And about a minute later, they, you know what, they couldn't be bothered to get off their sofa and get it and pick it up and hand it over. And you think you're the dad, so like, you got the I am there, innit? Ma, I am dad, you are son, servant. But sometimes there's parents out there that they actually think, "Oh, wicked man, at least we've got a nice pair of servants on our hands now." And then it's like, "Tenu suniya nahi? Didn't you hear it?" And the moment that happens is, remember, subconsciously, that gland will say, "Ooh, is this, is danger," and then it'll start sending the sign, the signals to now the adrenal glands to say, "Okay, we need you, stress hormones, come on." Stress hormones are released. Now some blood starts pumping. And we're there, sutte hoye, asleep. Because we're not in this awareness of Vaheguru, of that, in that moment of being aware. And that's it. There's no danger. And we just release it on them. We'll say, and we'll just go off on one, completely lose it. Sangaji, but what happens is, if we allow this to continue to keep happening, and we're not aware of it, but as we're speaking of this, you're getting awareness of the process that goes on and is happening. So you don't need it in those situations. Some people say, I had a right to be angry. Obviously, I was going to be angry for that situation. And we justify the anger. Why do we justify the anger? We justify the anger because of the ego. The ego says, "I am your father. How dare you speak to me like this?" And then what will happen is that all the other thieves will try and protect this layer, this ego. Say, yeah, come on, chak de, you tell them. And they'll get angry. And then the anger will say, yeah, this is it now. This, lag gaya, apna chance lag gaya. When somebody says, like, when somebody's there waiting on the side, they're waiting on the bench, a substitute. And then there's like, the ego's like the chief, the manager, controlling everything. Who can do what, who goes on where. And it's like, at that time when you say, "Main daddy ha, tenu pata main pe ha tera, I'm dad. How dare you not, you get up for me." And then Sangaji, what happens is, it's like then the manager, the ego say, "All right, anger, get off the bench. Let's explode now." But that was just there as an energy to use when you was in danger. There's no danger here. And what will that do eventually? And now there's been many studies done now that proves. They say that these aren't just random statements, Sangaji, where they actually say that constant anger of now, and remember, the more we get angry, the angrier we'll get. It's this cycle, because the brain will now, it will create that path inside, and that'll become easy now. So now to become angry it gets easier and easier. so that we just let in, because we're getting weaker and weaker and we just keep letting into that emotion. So what you'll see is eventually you'll get people that they just react like that. Say even a little bit thing out of them, and you know how you're always tiptoeing. You're tiptoeing around them. You're thinking, I wonder if I can say this. I don't want him to flip. I don't want him to switch. I don't want him to and living. You're living on. This isn't the greatest of example, but the saying as it goes, walking on eggshells. And you find yourself sometimes walking on eggshells amongst even your own family members or somebody at work. They'll say, but I don't know if I could get away with saying this, and it's something really small. And it might just be you say, not quite sure about this color you're wearing, and then you're thinking, tika, and then they're okay, and you think, tika, aj theek hi reha. And you think, all right, this one was all right. And then Sangat Ji, sometimes what happens is, and sometimes it just goes crazy, it blows up. And then sometimes all you say is that, I thought and you're thinking, shall I say, shall I not? And you're thinking, I thought the pronto would be a bit crispier than this. You think you could make the next, you're about to say, could you make the next one? Make it yourself then! And you're thinking, bas ho gayi, lo lag gayag. And it's gone. It's fireworks. It's gone crazy. And that's all it takes sometimes. Why? Because the response is more of a word when you reflect and you consciously respond to something. Reaction is just bang. And the more we do it, the more often we will do it. So when we say to somebody, come on, let's nip this in the bud now, it's a good idea. And if that carries on long enough, there's proof that if you keep releasing that chemical, that signal, keep firing that neuron in your brain, what will happen is it doesn't allow serotonin to be released. Serotonin, Sangaji, is the happy chemical. The chemical that balances our whole chemicals inside our brain, so that we can just experience the pleasure of life and be happy. But because if you're constantly angry, it doesn't allow that to be released. Eventually that will dry out. There'll be an imbalance and serotonin will stop releasing. Once that stops releasing, guess what you've got? You've got depression. So now Sangaji, this is Kabira Jaha Gyan Teh Dharm hai. So now you're getting some wisdom here, Sangaji, of how the system works. With this wisdom, you can now put it into a system in your life, into dharm. Meaning you can start being aware, and just like on a pack of cigarettes, it says that smoking kills, smoking causes cancer, and you've got pictures of mouth cancer on there. So this is the same thing now. This is a warning, red alert. Sangaji, what else happens? And then it actually affects your short-term memory. If you continue to being angry, it affects your short-term memory, and you'll find is people that live in a lot of anger, they can remember clearly more what happened to them in their childhood, but what's going on now, they can't remember it very well because it's affecting your short-term memory. And then it's affecting you in a way. These are things that have been proved, by the way. It's affecting your long-term decisions. Your decision making is actually impaired as well. So Sanjay, look at all what happens. That's why Bhagat Freed Ji, so don't think I'm talking outside of Gurbani and going off on one. Bhagat Freed Ji said, I used this in this morning's Hukamnama Katha. I made this my main point. Bhagat Freed Ji said, Frida bure da pala kar gussa. But I focused more on bure da pala kar. Let's just skip that for a moment. Gussa marna handai. Handai means when you wear something. This is why are you wearing yourself out with anger, and that's what we're literally wearing ourselves out. Literally. says, Dehi rog na lage. If you don't do this, then you won't be diseased. If you do, then you will be diseased. That's why Pachi say to us, kende, Kaam, Krodh, Kaya ko galle. So they say to us, kende, this is kende, Kaam, Krodh, Kaya ko galle. Galle means, kende, ਜਦੋਂ ਕੋਈ ਚੀਜ਼ ਗਲ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ, when something is ruined, when something gets moldy, something becomes all, when it just starts to waste away, decays. But kende, Kaam, Krodh, kende, what happens is from this calmness, from the expectation you had from something, from a situation, and a situation didn't go your way. And remember, life is such that it can't always go our way, because nar chahat kach aure ki aure pei chit vitare ut gaur nanak fansi gal pari. Kende kaam krodh kayon ko galle. Pachi is saying that things can't always just go your way, because there's somebody else that is the doer, that is the karta. So something might not go our way, but what can go our way is we can be in control of our emotions. That, yes, we can control. Outside situations we might not be able to. Yes, we all agree with that. But kaam krodh kaya ko galle. Pachi ji is saying this actually ruins your mental health and your physical health. So we know now that the process of how depression can occur with anger, and they say because it's the same glands, the adrenal glands, that release these stress hormones that work during anxiety as well. So the more and more angry we get, the more chance we have got with suffering with an anxiety as well, when we're living in constant fear. Because even during fear, it's the same chemicals, it's the same glands that react. So these are things. So anger can eventually start causing fear and anxiety. Long term it can cause depression, short term it can cause anxiety. So Sangat ji, kaam krodh kaya ko galle, it can cause high blood pressure, because during that time our heart is working faster, our heart rate is increased, and then so it can affect our blood pressure. It actually affects our blood sugars as well, and then it doesn't help our digestive system, like I said before. So everything is turned upside down. We're falling apart physically and mentally. Why? Because of anger. Saying to you, how crazy is that? And if our then immune system isn't strong enough, then we're open to all sorts of infections, viruses, diseases, cancers, just because our immune system is down. And that could be all caused from anger. So Sache Paatshah Ji saying to us, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Paatshah Ji, Maaf karna, Guru Arjun Dev Ji Paatshah Ji saying to us here. So they say, going back to this now, you imagine if you're getting angry about a certain situation in your life. A lot of it, and then what happens, I was talking about compassion and anger doesn't sit together. Just like Sache Paatshah Ji has told us here, can they Kadanch Karuna na upajate. There cannot be that compassion where there is anger. So Sangat Ji, so what I did was in this situation, and I was getting taken over, thinking I'm so right, frustrated, and then saying, no, this is now out of order. How can they react like this? First, I was actually quite calm, because obviously I was training my mind. Then as well, I was reading a lot of books, reading a lot of Gurbani with Guru's Kirpa. So I was training my mind. But as soon as that pride kicked in, started to slip, started to get a bit more frustrated, angry. And then, luckily, and I've shared this before and I share it again, because you can never say enough. And we need to keep hearing the same things again and again. And when I listen to Mahapurukhs, when I listen to those that are enlightened, what I'll find is, once I've listened to about 5-6 of their talks, they keep saying the same thing, because it needs to be instilled in us. I read this book, I read The Art of Happiness. And in there, it spoke about a situation, about how to the Dalai Lama was giving advice to someone how to actually bring more compassion into a situation in their life that they was really struggling with. They kept thinking that that person's annoying. There's no such thing actually. Nobody is annoying. Annoyance is inside of us. It's us that haven't got patience and are losing control over our mind. And then, so what happened is that, so I took that meditation on, and what I would do is I would just sit after reading Gurbani in the morning. I'd close my eyes, and the meditation was that you don't even think about compassion, because I can say compassion, 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 but it doesn't mean it's going to come to me. I can say sugar, 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 it doesn't mean I'm going to get sweet. So Sangat Ji, until I'm able to grasp the what is behind compassion, what is it? So then I would close my eyes and I would put myself in the shoes of these certain individuals that were involved in this person's life, where I felt that they were pulling this person back. So I started to put myself in their situation. Why are they doing this? Where are they sitting? What perspective are they looking at it from? And what relation have they got to this person? And that closeness, and whether they've got amongst each other kindness, compassion, or even forms of attachment in their love. And I was thinking about that person's life, what they have gone through in their journey of their life. And because of what they've gone through in their life, they've become this way. And now they don't know it any other way. So they're trying to protect themselves and protect their loved ones. And as I'm going through their life, their perspective, and them as a person, actually how much sacrifice they have done for these people in their life. And I was thinking, oh my God, I'm nothing. Like in comparison to what this person has done for them. And my I am doing this started to reduce. And then from that I am, this arrogance looking down at them started to reduce. Instead, I could feel myself entering into their feet. And then it was like, oh wow, this overwhelming compassion for them. Thinking that you've gone through so much, you're going through so much now through this situation. You feel like you're losing someone so close to you. And that compassion was then overwhelming. And that was a practice. It was a tool that I utilized. And once that comes there, anger can't come near us then. But it's going to be difficult to practice it in the situation. But when we are calm, and the more we practice it during calmness, the more our brain will get built and will create that pattern in its brain. And then when that moment comes, when something challenges us, and we would normally react in anger, but now instead we will act out of that compassion, because we've built it into a system now. So Pacha ji kende kal mool krodang kadanch karuna na upajate bekhyant jivang vasing krot. Those people that are constantly speaking lowly and acting and doing lowly actions, that Guru Sahib ji saying kende that's who the krodh is looking out for. Kende nirtyang, kende what it does is then, kende nirtyang means dance in Hindi, and then krodh, what it makes it do is jatha. It makes it mrkateh. Jatha Sangat ji, sorry, means just like. Mrkateh means a monkey. It said that anger, when it gets control of us, it makes us dance around like a monkey. And just like when somebody's intoxicated and drinks alcohol and they say, oh God, I can't believe I did that. And in the same way, when somebody's angry, they commit all sorts of things. People end up killing someone, murdering someone, doing all sorts of things that you wouldn't even comprehend. You could never comprehend when you're calm. You end up speaking to certain people in a certain way and you actually feel sick. You can't believe you've done that. You become intoxicated and it's making us dance around like this monkey. So the way we speak is there's a dance coming from us, from our words, like we would never say before. That's how much power it's ended up getting over us. But Sangat Ji, that's it now. Just through listening to this, we're going to become more and more aware. Don't just take this as katha, take this as awareness, simran. This remembrance of what I am and the capability I have of controlling my own emotions, that I can do this. Anek sasan tadanta jamadute kende anek sasan. Sasan Sangat Ji means giving the order. And then tadant means to punish someone. And what happens is when we're in this way, it's like we're being punished. Jamdute, by these messengers of death. What messengers of death here? The messengers of death of our calmness, of our gun, the amrit lute, or they are now becoming the death of us. And that death is now beating us. The anger has now taken the form on the messenger of death that is looting us now and beating us and ordering us around in so many different ways. It's got us like a little puppet. Those that actually sange, that remain in the company of tav, of you anger. Guru Arjun Dev Ji adamang means that person becomes very small, meaning that the kind of things they end up doing are very lowly. That person, and the only thing we can do, Pachi is saying, is to, when we start realizing, somebody brings into our awareness actually that you are out of control. The moment we become deen, we become meek, Sangat Ji, and we say, Vaheguru, look what's happening to me. This anger has taken over me. That's why people then have anger management. Sangat Ji, suppressing somebody's feelings is dangerous for us as well. Even that will become diseases. That's why it's not to ignore anger, it's not to get out of a situation, but it's actually being expressive, proactive in a healthy manner and exchanging our emotions and feelings with somebody in a healthy way. Kende deen dukh panjan dayal prabh, kende he dayal, he Vaheguru Ji, the form of compassion, kende take away this dukh panjan, smash this dukh, smash this suffering of mine, this suffering of, just like somebody saying this suffering in addiction of alcohol, this is suffering in the addiction of anger. That's why there's classes out there to go to of anger management, stress management. But stress isn't something that we have to live with. Anger isn't something we have to live with. There's none of it that is normal. Yes, what we need is that response to be able to deal in a dangerous situation. We could still be responsive in situations and be assertive in situations without getting angry. Deen. But when we become deen, meek, realize that I'm suffering in this, out of that will become an ardas. An ardas will be our first step, and surrendering to Vaheguru Ji to say that, please take mercy upon me. Kende Nanak, Guru Arjun Dev Ji Pachi saying, Bisram leke ithe, a small little pause. Nanak sarb ji rakhya karot. The moment that we surrender and say that, whoa, this anger is crazy, that I want to get a grip, I want to become more aware, Sache Pachi, fill me with more compassion. And like I said, use the tools that I've just provided as well. Do those type of meditations on compassion. Put yourself, bring those people in your consciousness when you're doing part in the morning. Sangat Ji, then we say Ji Rakhya Krodh. Krodh means please do this for me. Ji, upon this Jeev, upon this being, Rakhya, save me from this anger that is destroying. Anger destroys marriages. It destroys relationships. It ends up people in prison, in jail, in taking somebody's life. It's that destructive. Please do not normalize it. My Guru does not normalize it, Sangat Ji. So, aao pyareo, doing that ardas and taking on those type of meditations, Sangat Ji. You know what I was thinking, I was going to say to my Pyara Veer, Precharan Singh, I was going to say that video probably just do about half an hour today because I'm only going to talk about anger, and I'm just thinking now I've probably got about another half an hour to go through, but this is how immense the Guru is. So Sangat ji, itni ek benti hai praman karniya, ek ne par aneka hi galtiyan samch ke bakhsh dena. Sangat ji, please forgive me for all my mistakes, and let's all say Fateh. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.